Did a lot of haul.
Oh, you're doing your haul. Go on with your haul.
Oh, okay.
Haul away.
Hi, everyone. It's the Book Cougars, two middle-aged women on the hunt for a good read. I'm Emily.
And I'm Chris. And we are back. We missed last Friday because we had a technological glitch.
We had a whole bunch of things to talk to you about. And sorry, we just had a conversation between ourselves, it turns out.
And we did it. Blah, blah, blah. I'm so excited I can't speak.
We did an unboxing and it was so exciting.
It was so exciting. It was it was a package from a listener, Kathy.
Yes, and we had no idea what was inside. It was a heavy box. We unboxed it with enthusiasm to show you, and then the video got corrupted. So we're just going to show you the book now.
Yes. Ta-da!
Thank you so much, Kathy. This was one of the books that I mentioned in our top 10 episode. This was my favorite cookbook of the year, The Cookie That Changed My Life. And this is by Nancy Silverton with Carolyn Carreño. I love this cookbook so much, and I talked about how many times I checked it out of the library, and Kathy said you should own your own copy. So thank you so much, Kathy. Such a thoughtful gift. I've already been cooking from it. I made the shortbread out of the cookbook last night.
Yum.
Yeah, really yum. So, very exciting.
Thanks, Kathy. Another book we wanted to show you is related to a biblio adventure we were on just yesterday. This is a new biography-ish of Anne Frank, The Many Lives of Anne Frank by Ruth Franklin. And we saw a webinar presentation between Ruth Franklin and I forget the gentleman's name.
I think it was Maurice Samuels from the Yale School of Anti-Semitism. Yeah.
And this is published by Yale Press. It's part of their Jewish Lives series right down there. And what Ruth Franklin does with this book is she looks at Anne Frank, like how the many ways she's been a symbol for different people, and also her life, because one thing Ruth said at the beginning of the conversation that we watched is that Anne had become so symbolic that her humanity was being not necessarily erased, but like fading into the background. So she really wanted to she wanted to look at those symbols and Anne's humanity together. So each chapter deals with a different type of symbol Anne has been.
Right.
And it dispels a lot of myths about Anne and her father's involvement with her diary.
Yes. And this is a mural that actually is in New Haven, right down the street from us. And she chose that as the cover art because so many images of Anne are so iconic, and she talks a lot about the adaptations of Anne Frank's diary and things like that. So it seemed like an apt cover.
And this is a mural by the artist BIP, who stands for Believe in People. So we both really look forward to this one, and talked a lot about that biblio adventure in episode 227, which will be coming out this coming Tuesday.
Yes. And speaking of Ruth Franklin, as you know, we're focusing on ghost stories this year, and our first read-along is The Haunting of Hill House. We're also doing a companion read of Shirley Jackson, A Rather Haunted Life, also by Ruth Franklin. I started both reading and listening to the audio of this week, and I'm loving it. I'm loving Ruth Franklin's writing, but also just learning more about Shirley Jackson, who, as it says in the introduction, her husband felt like she didn't get her due. He died after her. Shirley Jackson died very young. I think she was like 48 or something. He died soon after, and he was right. And now she's had a resurgence, and there are adaptations of her books and reprinting of her books. So this is a wonderful, very comprehensive biography of Shirley Jackson. I believe the audiobook's about 19 hours.
One of the books I'm currently reading is Swan's Way by Marcel Proust. I'm reading it, a buddy read with Robin and some other people. She started the Proust Pilot Project, is the official hashtag on Instagram if you want to check it out. And Robin created a really nice reading schedule for us. It's not too ambitious because, as other readers have said, like Proust's prose is very wonderful to read. It's not convoluted in any way, but it's very stream of consciousness. So you do have to pay attention. So I think the reading schedule comes out to about 10 pages a day, which I wasn't consulting the schedule initially, but the first 2 days, I naturally just read 10 pages. Like that's when I stopped. And so since it is such stream of consciousness and there's not really chapter breaks or stuff so I'm putting a sticky tab at the place where I stop each day and then just start from there. I might go back a paragraph or so. But yeah, so it's fiction based on his life and his memories, and I'm really enjoying it. I can imagine losing patience with it because it is so wandering, and as I said, you have to pay attention. You can't just kind of skim it and know what's going on, really. So more to come on that. Well, we're reading it over 6 weeks, I believe. Okay. So my first engagement with Mr. Proust.
Well, I went to the library and had a bit of a library haul, including this book, which I was so excited to find. I had no idea that Abigail Thomas had a new memoir. It's called Still Life at 80, The Next Interesting Thing. And the beginning of it, I just stood in the library and I read the introduction, and then the beginning, it's kind of essays, I believe, and has different parts, is a poem that she wrote to herself on her 40th birthday in 1981. So imagine looking back on that now that she's in her 80s. And the poem is fantastic. I won't read it to you because it's kind of long. She wrote the memoir, A Three-Dog Life, which is one of my favorite memoirs about a time when her husband, I believe, I may not have this right, but I believe he went out to walk the dog or something and then suffered a traumatic brain injury and ended up having to be permanently hospitalized, and she has to rebuild her life, and she does so with the companionship of her 3 dogs. Thus the title. Beautiful writer. I know Chris isn't always a fan of Stephen King blurbs, but it is blurbed on the back.
I noticed that. I tried not to start laughing while you were talking.
A little jewel of a book full of epiphanies that are comforting and merciless in the gentlest possible way. Chris thinks Stephen King blurbs everything. So, there's a big hullabaloo recently that Simon & Schuster has announced that they're not going to require blurbs on books. It does take a lot of author effort and time. So when she texted me about that, the first thing I texted back was, what will Stephen King do with all of his time now?
Well, the thing with Stephen King blurbs is like one of the books he blurbed, he's like, this is so scary. And I read it. I mean, it was one idea enough because this is so unrealistic and not scary at all. It's boring and tedious.
So it's a question of whether he reads the books he blurbs. We digress.
That's
yeah, I know, throwing shade. Wow. I am throwing shade on Stephen King. It's okay. He's got a very good life.
I know. I love his books, but his blurbs.
I would read this book whether or not it was blurbed by Stephen King.
And it's also blurbed by Anne Lamott.
It is.
What does she say?
She says, one of the most beautiful writers I know, dizzyingly truthful, often funny, lyrical, and wise. Nice. And I love I believe this was a painting that she did or her daughter did. I can't remember. It talked about it in the intro. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about blurbs? What do you think? If you have a strong opinion about blurbs, we'd love to hear it. Either way. I mean, I know some books I have been turned on to because of a blurb by a particular writer, and it's just like, it's usually somebody who doesn't hardly ever blurb, like Sarah Waters. I can't think of the name of the book that I saw, and it was actually, I was reshelving at work one day, and I was like, Sarah Waters blurbed this. I took it home and loved it.
I like blurbs, and I do pay attention to who's blurbing them, but then as I think I've learned more about the world of blurbing, I do understand that sometimes people don't read the books, and then other people do read the books, and I know it takes them a lot of time, and that's part of the reason they're making announcements now that they might not require their authors to blurb. And there's this new movement of like pre-blurbs. I read about that, where it's like the book's not even finished and they want people to blurb them, which seems like a little
it's like
strange.
Writing a blurb of somebody's life,
right?
And they're still alive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, how long would you take to write a blurb on your best friend? Imagine how long that could take.
Wow.
Don't look at me.
I don't know. I would just say she gave good advice. Done. Emily, fine. No.
That's true, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be really.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
great. Period.
Yeah. Really like her. I wouldn't be friends with her if I didn't.
Now, who do I borrow books from? Right? Oh my God. Okay, so this is an upcoming read. Are we done with that?
Yeah,
You wanna
I've just
say
got,
more?
I only have my I did a lot of hauling.
Oh, you're
with a
doing
lot
your
of those.
haul. Go on
Yeah.
with your haul.
Oh, okay.
Haul away.
Haul away. I also picked up a copy of the new Jason Reynolds YA. It's called 24 Seconds from Now. And it's about a young couple told from his point of view about their first time having sex. And I'm hearing really great things about it. I also got out the audiobook, so I'm going to do a hybrid read of this one. Can't go wrong with Jason Reynolds. And then this one I went specifically to get. I'd put it on hold. This one I happened upon in the new release section. And then this one in the nonfiction new release section. And then this one was in the new release fiction section. It's called The Cheesemaker's Daughter by Kristin Vukovic. And it's a debut novel about a young woman who I believe is living in the United States and then is called back to Croatia to help run the family farm where they make sheep's milk cheese. So I'm interested to learn more about Croatia. I don't know much about it. There is a map of Croatia in the front, and I've always wanted to go there because I hear that if you're a water lover, it's a beautiful place to visit. I had a friend who went on a trip there and sailed. They rented a sailboat and spent the whole trip on the water, and her pictures were phenomenal. And I don't know much about the food of Croatia either, so I'm hoping that I at least learn about the cheese. So,
Nice.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever had lamb cheese.
Lamb cheese?
Didn't you say lamb cheese?
Sheep's milk cheese.
Oh, sheep's
Yeah.
milk.
Did I say lamb? Sheep's milk?
Sheep's milk.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had sheep's milk cheese.
Oh, we eat so much of it. Both my TMI, both my kids are lactose intolerant, and if you're lactose intolerant, you can eat sheep's milk cheese.
Yeah, and goat's
And
milk. I mean, I do
goat's
goat's
cheese.
milk.
Yeah.
But never, I'll have to check into that.
Sheep's
Huh.
milk feta especially is one of my favorites.
Very
So,
cool.
yeah.
I will have to scope that out. So this is a book, an advanced reader copy from Berkeley. Thank you, Berkeley, for sending this. The Ghost Woods by C.J. Cook. It is a advanced copy that is not even like, you know, they don't have all of the publicity stuff that you usually have at the back of a advanced reader copy.
Yeah, or sometimes you even get like these with the Anne Frank Yale University Press sent, you know, like a little press kit with it, paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're obviously really into ghosts this year, and the Ghost of the Woods, come on, like, you know. And we just thought we'd read the first paragraph for you. So this is set in Dundee, Scotland, May 1959. I have a ghost in my knee. There's a small pocket just behind the kneecap, and she's hiding in there, all tucked up in the soft mattress of cartilage. She's very small and terrified, so I'm sitting with that leg slightly straightened so I don't disturb her. I've not said a word about this to anyone. They'd think I'm mad.
It makes me think like I have a little crick in my knee, like, what's going on in there?
I know, and I just noticed looking at the cover a little bit more detail, there's mushrooms.
Oh my goodness.
So mushrooms, a creepy house, a ghost in the kneecap cartilage.
Yeah, beware of
could go
mushrooms. Yeah, a lot with
Yeah.
mushrooms, I'm here to say. I have a very healthy fear of mushrooms.
You
Yeah.
guys.
Yes.
That's what I'll put on your tombstone or your blurb.
My
Their
blurb.
blurb.
I just wrote it for
You
you.
did, thank
She has
you.
a very
Okay.
healthy fear of mushrooms.
Well, hopefully that's not what kills you. Oh yeah.
Maybe that's, you know, sometimes our fears are based in like a little
Premonitions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, intuition. I mean, if I die eating something, I'll be happy. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, right. She died doing what she loved.
That's right.
Wow, we are really going off on a tangent. But, you know, you're dealing with ghost stories and death. And
Yeah.
I think that's going to be part of the theme this year.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What are you reading? Have you read any ghost stories? Let us know. We have a thread over on Goodreads with just like a general discussion about ghost stories and books about ghosts, which is what a ghost story is, I guess.
Well, you can mean like nonfiction books.
Yes, that's
books about
true.
ghosts. Like
Yeah,
we have,
or like this. This is kind of a book about ghost stories, right? It is, because
Yeah.
Ruth Franklin wrote ghost stories. There you go.
wait, Ruth Franklin. No,
I'm
Shirley
sorry,
Jackson.
Shirley Jackson wrote ghost stories.
I was like, Ruth Franklin? Wow.
Maybe
That
she
would be
will.
cool, you
Yeah.
know? You never know.
We are going to start soon, not yet, a tab on our website, bookcougars.com, with like information about our big year of reading ghosty things.
Mm-hmm.
So look for that next week. I will update the information below once that link is live.
Yeah. And we're interested in studying like the history of the ghost story as well, because
Yeah.
we're reading that Penguin book of ghost stories. And in the introduction, the author talks about, that ghost stories are a genre and short stories are a form of literature that really developed in the 19th century, in part because of magazines, and you don't really think about that often, like when you're reading the best American short stories of 2024, that how did this genre come about?
Right.
And then why did ghost stories become such a popular genre? So yeah, we're going to be reading it all.
Yes.
Well, not
yeah.
reading it all,
In the beginning, well, as much
a
as we
lot,
can.
yeah.
In the beginning, in the introduction to this, Ruth Franklin talks about when the lottery, Shirley Jackson's short story, The Lottery, was published in the New Yorker. It was like they got the Bennington, Vermont post office where Shirley Jackson lived was overwhelmed with hate mail saying, like, how dare you write this story?
Yeah.
So,
I remember reading that story in high school and thinking like, wow, what kind of stuff is this teacher going to have us read? Because I really liked it, but I was just like, wow, that's brutal, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she wrote, the thing that creeped me out is she wrote it, she got the idea for it as she was, like pushing her child down the street in a stroller. It's like, ooh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Totally. But that's not a ghost story.
Oh, it's
The
not
Lottery.
the lottery?
Yeah, it's not a ghost
What is
story.
it? Just like a creepy ass story?
It's a creepy ass New England story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What do I know?
But still worth reading for sure.
Well, I'm going to be starting also The Haunting of Hill House this weekend, which I don't have my copy in hand, but that is our first quarter read along. And that is a ghost story. It's a haunted house story.
Haunted house story. Well,
Right.
now I'm rethinking of the lottery. Like the reason why the lottery happens is based on superstition, I guess. But, it's been a while since I've read that. So maybe we should self-assign that for ourselves.
Oh my gosh, so many books. Well, maybe I should stop going to the library and picking up 3 books for my weekend.
Yeah. Well,
Tell us what you're reading.
oh, look at that. That doesn't even have a thing on the side.
No.
So I'm just going to hold this one up as hopeful in the future.
Yes.
Yeah. So everybody, we wish you lots of happy
Happy reading.
reading.